Hello there. My name is Matthew Petrunia, and I'm an associate professor in the English and Communication Studies Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology, SUNY, located in New York City. My reason for being here today is to share with you information about crafting an elevator pitch, which is a speech designed to give another person an indication of what it is that you are doing, what you can bring to the table, and what skills or projects that you are currently working on. Where an elevator pitch got its name is this idea that you enter an elevator with an individual, and by the time you reach the top floor all the way down to the bottom, you should be able to give them a fairly good idea of what it is that you do and who you are. So this is my elevator pitch for you. Currently at the Fashion Institute of Technology, I'm an associate professor who specializes in rhetorical theory and criticism, which is just a fancy way of saying the study of persuasion. Specifically, I am interested in individuals who have very difficult to proffer messages. For example, if a person wanted to convince you that they believe in ghosts and that the room you're currently in is haunted, how do they go about doing that? Because they have two things that are working against them. One is an Aristotelian mode of proof known as ethos or credibility. And then the other thing that works against them is a lack of tangible evidence. Even when they have it, it's difficult to prove. And so my research is really interested in trying to figure out how someone who lacks these two basic components is able to successfully communicate their message. Now, in this little demonstration here, it gives you an approximate idea of something that I do, what my research interest is, who I am as a person. And the thing with an elevator pitch is that you want it to be delivered in a way that seems confident, that seems knowledgeable, and that showcases your abilities in the best possible way. Over the course of the next year, you're going to have an opportunity to share your research projects and the things that you are working on with a variety of different people. You're going to have an ability to network and to meet interested people who want to potentially help you launch your idea or help you accomplish what it is that you are setting out to do. And having a good elevator pitch is a wonderful way to break the ice and to make a valuable first impression that can lead to more favorable conversations and hopefully more introductions to people as well. So today, what I would like to do with you is share with you some basic tips on an elevator pitch. Now, when conducting a meta-analysis of elevator pitch materials, I noticed that they have three things in common with one another. The first thing that I would like to talk to you about is this idea that you need to be concise. Being concise is critical. The reason is that you only have a short amount of time, especially if you're in a situation where you are networking, where you may be meeting tens or even hundreds of different people within a short span of an hour. The purpose of networking events oftentimes is to meet as many individuals as you can. And you know one of the first things that they're going to ask you is, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. When you are attending the CGIU, what you might tell them about is the project that you've been working on, the inspiration for it, your motivation, things that you feel are important for another person to know. So this way they will hopefully not only see the good work that you're doing, but hopefully will even want to support you in a variety of different ways. You want to make sure that you are relatively brief, because if you go on too long, you may lose interest or it is going to come across as a negative type of thing. The second thing that I want to share with you, again, is this concept of adaptability. The reason is you're going to be meeting a variety of different people. And sometimes you'll meet them together in a group. So you tell your person, here's a little bit about who I am and what it is that I'm doing. But then at the same time, you're also going to meet someone else. So going back to my original story, that I'm interested in people who believe in ghosts and how do they communicate that information to non-believers. For a different person, I might share a different aspect of my research. What you've been looking at for the last few moments are the Cottingley fairy photos. These, in a series of essays written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, are designed in order to defend the truthfulness of these particular images. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wanted to prove that these pictures were authentic. And what my analysis does is examine his critical response in the Strand magazine. Additionally, I'm also interested in a website known as stjosephstatue.com. In this particular website, homeowners who are desperate to try and sell their homes will purchase a statue of St. Joseph. The belief is if you bury the statue in the ground upside down, that he will intercede on your behalf to God and help you sell your home faster. So if I'm meeting a lot of different people, I don't want to just repeat the same rehearsed pitch. I need to be adaptable. I need to make sure that I'm able to change it slightly in order to maintain people's interest. The second strategy that I want to talk to you about today is this idea of accessibility. Again, you're going to be speaking to people who do not know necessarily what it is that you are doing. You may have some individuals who have a very clear understanding of the type of work or scholarship or project that you are producing. However, there are many different people who may not have that background needed to truly understand what it is that you're talking about. It is essential that you make sure your message is accessible, because if a person doesn't understand it, instead of listening intently, they may just stop listening to you, which does your project no good, you no good, and the person that you are trying to share this research or project with any good as well. So in order to make sure that something is accessible, you need to make sure that you're explaining in a way that people can have a good understanding. For example, what you're looking at here is a picture of a shark, specifically something known as the ampullae of Lorenzini, a specialized sensory device located on the snout of a shark that allows it to detect electrical impulses. So for example, this organ is so sensitive, it can determine a heartbeat of another animal or muscle movement. It allows the shark in very murky or dark waters to find prey, even if it buries itself underneath the sand, because sand does not insulate from that electrical impulse. Now, I'm assuming most of you have never heard of the term the ampullae of Lorenzini, but now that I've explained it a little bit to you, have I made this information accessible? Now, I am not saying that you're going to have a complete understanding of this particular organ or how it works, but do you have enough information where you can make an assessment or ask more informed questions or dig deeper into what is being said? Another example of this can be found in this interesting reinterpretation of the Got Milk ad featuring Superman here. Instead of got milk, what this one is asking is, got emulsions of butterfat globules within a water-based fluid? Super. That's how the nutrient fluid produced by the mammary glands of female bovines makes you feel. The calcium helps connect the rigid connective tissues that make up your skeleton, that make your skeleton grow strong. So even if you're not from Krypton, you can have the bones of iron with carbon content between 0.02% and 1.7% by weight. It's so clear, it's not even funny. Or is it? The scientific language here is explaining something in a very accurate way, but do you understand what is being explained to you? Now, if you compare this to the original ad that this was based upon, it makes a lot more sense. One of the things you have the ability to do is say things in two very different ways. One way is going to be accurate, but is not going to be a good way of explaining something to someone who doesn't have the appropriate background. The other way is going to make something much more accessible, and if they can access the information, they're more likely to want to be able to support it. And then one final example here. What you're looking at is the very first purposeful interstellar message that was ever sent out to contact extraterrestrial life. This can be found on the Pioneer 10 and 11 probe, and this particular plaque gives the potential viewer a lot of information about who we are and how to find us. Now, by looking at this image, there are some things you're probably able to access very easily. For example, the images of the man and the woman. You might even be able to determine that the drawing of the triangle with the disc and the rectangle is that of the probe. But what about the other pieces of information? What about this thing that looks like, in a sense, an uncompleted spider web? What's that represent? Well, what the framers of this particular interstellar message was looking at is that this is going to show where we are located within our Milky Way galaxy. The little notches represent pulsars, and if you trace them to a center point, you're going to notice that it takes you to the center, which is where our sun is located. And then a map of our rudimentary solar system can be located at the bottom. Again, the information makes sense when it's explained to you, but just by looking at it, it may be confusing or difficult to access. And if you're having that problem, instead of listening more intently or trying to figure it out, you might just simply stop listening. No one likes it when you talk over their head or where you make them feel like you're talking down to them in any way. And remember, this type of speech, this elevator pitch, is designed to not only showcase your abilities and talents, but also set up the stage for a warm interaction, which can lead to hopefully future interactions as well. The final thing within these three areas is the concept of practice. It is imperative that you practice your elevator pitches. Now, I will point out here that I am not expecting you in any way, shape, or form to have these perfectly memorized. I think that's actually a detriment to what it is that you're trying to do. You need to know your material, but you need to deliver it in what's called an extemporaneous delivery style. The reason for extemporaneous, it allows you to make changes. It allows you to adapt to meet the needs of your current communication context. One thing to think about is that when you're speaking to a person, they may be interested in different things or aspects about the project that you are presenting. For example, if you are talking to a person, you may see them nodding or smiling at certain parts of your elevator pitch. If you see that happening, I strongly encourage you to continue down that path a little bit more. Maybe give them even more information. On the other side of things, maybe they're looking at you with that confused look. Have you ever seen a dog, for example, when it doesn't quite understand something and it kind of tilts its head? The thing is, people sometimes do that as well, or they'll have a look of disconcertion on their face. They don't quite understand what it is that you're trying to say. And if you notice this, your job is to think about what you said and then maybe re-examine it. Approach it from a different vantage point. Define things, or maybe give a quick example in order to clarify the position that you are trying to make. The thing is, you have to practice this speech a lot because you need to be so comfortable with the material that you can make changes to it, that you can adapt it to a new person or a group of people. One thing that's important to know about any audience that you ever encounter, now don't be scared about with what I'm about to say to you, is that they are lazy and that they are selfish. Now, those of you out there watching this right now are like, hey, Matt, I'm your audience at the moment. You did not just call me lazy, and you did not just call me selfish to my face. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say, oh, yes, he did. And let me tell you why audiences are lazy and selfish. Let me explain this particular point to you. They're lazy in the respect that it takes a lot of effort and energy to listen to a person give a presentation. Think about where you're listening to this right now. What sort of distractions are taking place outside of your mind at the moment? Do you hear noises? Are there conversations? Dogs barking? Anything that makes it more difficult to listen to this particular presentation? Or think about what's going on inside your mind. Maybe you're hungry, or you're tired, or you're bored. I hope you're not bored, but maybe you are. And the thing is, it takes a lot of effort and energy to keep focused on the person. Now, when you're speaking to another individual in this context of a networking situation, they may become distracted. They may lose interest, especially if your delivery is not on point. If they feel like you don't know what it is that you're doing, they may even see it or interpret it as a sign of disrespect. If you don't even care enough about the project by practicing it and delivering it in an effective way, why are you wasting my time? Why are you doing this to me? And so you want to make sure that when you are giving the presentation, that it is delivered in a way that is going to be respectful of the other person and show that you have respect for the type of work you do. Because if it's a bad presentation, it is very easy to think about a lovely meal they'll be having later, or a fun movie they want to go see. So you need to do everything you can to make sure that they keep their focus on you. Don't give them any distractions in a poor delivery that could send them in a different direction. The other thing that I called you was selfish. And again, you might be like, hey, you don't know me. Why are you saying that? Well, the reason that I'm saying that audiences are selfish is that they're interested in things that relate to them. For example, I could tell you all about my research, but if you don't really have an interest in the supernatural or the paranormal and how that is communicated, it's not going to be really entertaining for you or valuable to you. But if this is something that is intriguing to you, then you're going to listen more intently. The reason you have a connection to what it is that I'm saying. When you are preparing your elevator speech, it is imperative that you have a connection with that individual. Showcase how your idea is going to possibly save money, make people's lives better. Share with them ways that your research might apply to things that they're doing. It's not enough just to give a series of words. You want your words to have the power to connect to another person. And if they can see the value in your idea, whether it saves time, money, or even lives, then it's going to be something that they pay more attention to, that they can connect with and become more enthusiastic about. Today, what we did was we looked over 3 basic ideas of what you should do when preparing an elevator speech. The first idea, again, was to be concise. You want to be relatively brief. Now, estimates can be anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute, although I've seen some research say as much as 5 minutes is what you should prepare. Whatever you prepare, though, you want it to showcase what it is you do in the best possible light. The other thing off of this tangent that we talked about is the idea of being adaptable. You want to make sure that you're able to change it. This way, when you're speaking to a different person, you can share with them a new piece of material that you didn't share with another person who may have heard the same spiel previously. So you want to make sure that you change it when necessary. The second thing is accessible. Some of you may have projects that are mired in scientific jargon and tech speak. And it is imperative that you do whatever you can to make sure that not only the advanced scientists can understand it, but the layperson as well. Because again, you're not just relaying this information to one person, but you're trying to get your ideas out to as many different people as you possibly can. You never know who may have a connection or know someone that may be able to help you launch your project from just this initial stage into something much more substantial. And the final piece of advice that I would give to you is that you need to make sure that you really practice it. You want to make sure that you come across as knowledgeable, that you are valuing not only the project that you are putting out there, but the person's time that you are speaking to. And you want to make sure that you are giving reasons why your research doesn't only benefit what you do, but has the potential to benefit other people or show the relevance to the person you're speaking to. So even though I may study things like the supernatural and the paranormal, the relevance to people in general is sometimes people have a difficult message. What is the best way to go about communicating that? So even though they may not see themselves within my research, hopefully this linkage has enabled them to at least see some sort of connection. Elevator speeches are not difficult speeches. If you can have a conversation with somebody, you can deliver an excellent elevator speech. The only difference is the person isn't interrupting you or asking you specific questions. You're telling them in the best possible way why your research project is so wonderful, exciting, and important. Do what you can to make sure that this message clearly is communicated. So this way, when you go to the CGIU, you will have the best possible time, make wonderful connections, and could possibly network your project from something small into something that is global.